Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new to my channel. I hope you're doing really well today. So today's video is going to be my first instalment of Mental Health Monday. I have been talking about doing this series on my channel for ages now, and I finally got my arse into gear and sat down and filming. I'm sitting down to film my first instalment of it. Today I wanted to talk about something that affects my life really badly. Over the past month or 2 months, it has not been as bad at all. It has actually got a lot better, and I will get onto that towards the end of the video on how I managed to kind of deal with it and cope with it and stuff, and how I managed to kind of overcome it and suppress it, I guess. But today I'm going to talk about my emetophobia. Emetophobia is something that it affects my life so badly. I think that I have spoken about this really briefly a couple of times on my channel before in a couple of my videos, but obviously I've never gone into proper detail, so that is what I'm doing today. I'm just going to tell you my emetophobia story and everything that I've gone through with emetophobia. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about emetophobia if you don't know what it is. Emetophobia is the fear of vomit or vomiting. I know to a lot of you who don't have emetophobia, or you've never heard of what emetophobia is, and this is all kind of new to you. I know that you're probably thinking, what the hell? That is so weird. I know, it is really odd, and it's very irrational. It is very irrational, and it is the kind of phobia that is actually one of the worst, because when you have a fear of spiders or a fear of heights, you can easily control that. You can easily avoid spiders and you can easily avoid heights. But the thing with vomiting is that it's something that you have no control over. And that is why it is such a debilitating phobia to live with, because you don't have control of your own body, and you don't have control of other people's bodies, and you don't have control of the whole situation in general, because vomit has a mind of its own. It will just come up if and when it needs to. And yeah, it's something that you can't exactly avoid, when it when it happens, and when it comes around to it, you can't avoid it. You're screwed basically, and you just have to deal with it. The reason that I wanted to start my mental health series with emetophobia is because it was the first thing that popped into my head, because I've been itching to talk about this on my channel for so long, and obviously phobias are a mental disability or a mental disorder, so I wanted to start off with something that I think was, a good foundation to start off with, and I think that a lot of you can relate to this. Emetophobia is the 6th most common phobia, so it's actually very common. A lot of people just don't talk about it, so that's why it's not necessarily so much heard of, but it is a very common phobia. And I think the reason that people don't talk about it is because it is so irrational, and it's, to a lot of people, quite embarrassing. I know for me that it's embarrassing, to a certain degree, that is. I can talk about it, and I can openly tell people, because I'm quite a shameless person as it is, and I don't really have much shame, and I don't really get easily embarrassed, but sometimes it's just easy to get embarrassed, and it depends who you're talking to, I think, and it depends on the situation. Anyway, that is enough rambling about what emetophobia is. I'm just going to start off with telling you everything that I have gone through with emetophobia. So I have had emetophobia for my whole life, honestly since before I can remember. I think I have had emetophobia since I was old enough to understand what sick was and what vomit was. By the way, I'm really sorry if you're watching this and you have emetophobia and the words the V word and the S word are triggering for you. I'm so sorry. It's just that with me, luckily, with my emetophobia, the words vomit and stuff like that don't trigger it for me. Luckily, I'm so lucky in that sense, but I know that it can be triggering for some people with emetophobia, so I'm really sorry. I'll try my best to avoid saying the words as much as I can from now on. So yeah, I was terrified of getting sick from before I can even remember. I think, yeah, as I said, when I was old enough to understand what it was. I remember every time I did get sick, I would literally memorise what clothes I was wearing, and I would memorise what I had done that day. I memorised the food I ate prior to getting sick, and then I would always associate it. So if I would get sick, and say for example, if I was wearing a certain pair of jeans or a jumper or something like that, and I'd eaten a burger or something prior to it, I would then like associate it, and I would think, no, I can't eat burgers anymore because they'll make me sick, and I can't wear the clothes I was wearing on the day that I was sick because it reminds me of it and it takes me back to it. And I had such a bad association problem. And one time when I was in preschool, I think it was, yeah, I went to school with my pants on the wrong way round, and the reason that they were like that was because you know those pants that don't have like a front, it's all just like one pattern across like the entire pair of knickers or boxers or whatever, and there's no front and there's no button or there's no bow or anything. I was wearing a pair of those, and because I was little and I was dressing myself, I didn't know like which side was the front, so I put my pants on wrong. And I thought, and then I was sick later on that day, and I thought it was because my pants were like squeezing against my stomach or something, and then from there on I could not wear pants that didn't have a bow on the front or didn't have like a button on the front or anything, because I was so scared of putting them on wrong again. But the reason I actually did get sick was just because we had a bug that day, we all caught the bug from our class, and I'd also eaten a choc ice that day, and so like to this day I still don't eat choc ices really. So that was like one of the first associations with sick that I remember. Basically I just kept doing that every time I got sick up until today, to be honest. And the last time I got sick was January in 2015, so like a year and a half ago, and I had neurovirus and it was absolutely horrible. When I get sick, I just deal with it, like I literally just deal with it. In the build up to it, like when you feel so nauseous and you're like, I know that I'm gonna get sick, I just know it, like I'm screwed, I know I'm gonna get sick. When you are emetophobic, that just causes you so much anxiety and so much dread. Like it's such a horrible feeling, but I'm not sure if anyone else will be able to relate to me when I say this, but when I get so scared, like a few moments before I actually get sick, like you know you're about to be sick, I am so terrified that it's just like I'm beyond terrified, if you know what I mean. Like it goes past being terrified to the point where I'm numb and I can't even cry, I can't show any emotion, I can't show any like fear or anything like that. I'm just so scared, and I'm just numb, and I just wait for it to like, I just wait for myself to get sick. I think it's just the anticipation and the build up and the lead up to getting sick that I absolutely hate. When I was young and when I was growing up, when I was like, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, my emetophobia was so bad. Like it didn't control my life at all, but it was just so bad to the point where like I would say to my mum, if I eat this shortbread and then if I eat a biscuit afterwards, will I get sick? Honestly, when I was young, I was absolutely convinced that if I would have 2 sweet things that like weren't the same thing, and like they weren't from the same brand and they were like a completely different sweet or chocolate or biscuit or whatever, I thought that if I ate them both at the same time or one after the other, I would get sick because it would be like sugar overload. Because my mum used to say things like, oh, don't eat too many sweets or you get sick. And her saying that stuck in my head, and it wasn't her fault, like that was not her intention, obviously, but you know what parents are like, they just tell you not to eat too many sweets or else you get sick. But for me, that just stuck in my head, and I was convinced that if I would have like more than one shortbread or more than one chocolate bar, I would be sick. And obviously when you're emetophobic, you do anything in your power to avoid getting sick. I would always freak out every time someone said that they felt sick. If it was like a family member or a friend, I would freak the fuck out. Like I was so scared. I would feel this anxiety rising in me, like I would have to take deep breaths in, my mouth would water. And thinking about it now, it was kind of like a panic attack, because when I have panic attacks now, that's what they consist of, that's what they're like. And I just like feel really sick and my mouth starts watering, and that would happen to me every time someone threw up in front of me or told me that they felt sick. I would even associate when my family got sick, I would even associate the foods they ate prior to that. So I remember this one time my dad got sick, and prior to that he ate toast, beans and cheese. And I knew that the food didn't make him sick, obviously, but because obviously it was what he'd eaten, I associated it, and I was like, no, it could be a contributing factor. And so I didn't stop eating it, but I remember, oh my god, this is so embarrassing, I literally remember the way he cut his cheese. He cut his cheese like from the block down the side, and he cut it into like a thin long rectangle, and he put all of them on top of his beans. From that day, I would never ever cut my cheese into rectangles and put it on my beans. I would have to grate my cheese. Like, that is so embarrassing. Seriously, I had the most impeccable memory to like associate that and just to never want like rectangular cheese ever again. So yeah, I think I've rambled enough now about like my childhood and like how my emetophobia affected me in my childhood. Now let's move on to adolescenthood. My emetophobia has always been here, and it's never really, it's never really gone at all. Just sometimes it's worse than other times. So when I was about like 11 and 12, it was all right, like still quite bad, but it was all right. My emetophobia progressed when I developed anxiety. And the reason for this is because when I have panic attacks and when I get anxiety, I feel really nauseous. And because I feel nauseous, obviously that freaks me out because I'm emetophobic and I'm like, I don't want to be sick. So when I freak out because I think I don't want to be sick, that then causes even more anxiety, and that then causes more nausea. And so like, it's just like a vicious circle. And my emetophobia was the reason that I stopped going places, because I was so scared that I would throw up as a result of having a panic attack when I was at shops and stuff. And the reason that I had panic attacks was just because I had bad associations with everything. And I don't know if you guys know, but I was agoraphobic. Obviously, yeah, I had like a lot of panic attacks every time I went out to places, and my emetophobia was hugely linked. I was always convinced that I was going to throw up every single time. And I know you're probably thinking like, but what's so bad if you do throw up? Like, is it the end of the world? No, it's not. But to me, I was so terrified that if I like threw up in a shop in front of people, I would just be judged so much. And I came to the conclusion that it's not the shop that I have the phobia of, and it's not the house or the building that I have a phobia of going inside. It's the people in it. And I said to my mum once, I said, I've just had an epiphany, I've just had a revelation. If there was no one in this shop right now, I wouldn't be freaking out. And I think that's because when there are so many people around you and you're freaking out on the inside, you don't want to have an outburst and embarrass yourself. That's what it's like for me, at least. And I came to realise that if I did have an outburst, but no one saw me or anything, no one was in the shop to witness it, I'd be fine, because I wouldn't, embarrass myself. And I think that's what causes so much anxiety, thinking that if I do have an outburst, I'm going to embarrass myself. And that is what causes so much of my anxiety every time I'm in a social place. If any of you ever meet me, that's why I'm a little bit standoffish, because I'm so scared of having an outburst and embarrassing myself. So yeah, that is hugely linked to my emetophobia, because I am terrified always of getting judged if I throw up in front of people, because I think that people are going to be like, that is disgusting, what the hell? And I think the reason that I'm so scared of judgment, I think it's kind of like a metaphor. Like, obviously I'm scared of being judged of like throwing up in front of people, which by the way I know is stupid, because it's very rare that you throw up in front of people, but whatever. I think it's a metaphor to say that I'm just scared of judgment from people in general, and I never had this issue before I was bullied. After I was bullied, I've had this issue so badly. I've just had a massive fear of judgment issue, and I think that's because I was judged so much in primary school, and I feel like I have all these standards to meet, and I don't want to let people down and like disgust people. And a very interesting fact about emetophobia that reassured me though was 98% of people with emetophobia are women. And the reason for that is because women feel like they have to be ladylike, and they have to be clean, and they have to be, they can't be disgusting. And that literally answered so many of my questions. I was like, of course, that makes so much sense to me, because literally like only 2% of men have emetophobia, or the other 2% of people with emetophobia are men, I should say. And that is because men don't have that expectation to live up to, where they have to be like really hygienic and kind of like clean and not disgusting, because men like burp in front of each other. Men wee next to each other. It's actually really interesting when you think about it, because society has shaped it to be that way, that, men's things are like literally next to each other, their toilet bowl things, and women's aren't. Like, women have got their own individual cubicles. So it's like women subconsciously have been taught to be like ladylike and clean and hygienic, and they have like an expectation to meet and like standards like you can't throw up, you can't burp or anything like that because you're a lady, and that would be disgusting. And that was really interesting for me to find out, and it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, my emetophobia got really, really bad Christmas of last year. And it's been awful this year. Like, my emetophobia has been so bad, like at an all-time high. But as I said at the start of the video, it's kind of been a lot better over the past month. And the thing is with me, is that like every kind of like mental disorder I suffer from, it fluctuates hugely. Like my anxiety and my depression and my emetophobia and all of my other phobias that I have, they all like fluctuate hugely. So I think I'm at the point now where the fluctuation is like it's come down quite a lot, and I don't know when it will go back up. I again know that sounds quite pessimistic to like anticipate the worst and like expect it to go back up again, but with me it's I'm vulnerable. I'm very vulnerable because I have emetophobia. It's just if I see one thing, it will cause so much fear and anxiety for months after that. And because I'm so sensitive to it and because I'm vulnerable, like if I so much as have a bad experience with a vomit, I don't know, today for example, or tomorrow, it will cause me anxiety until Christmas. It will. And like, I don't know what caused my emetophobia to be so bad the beginning of this year, but it must have been something that triggered so much of like the anxiety. I must have like had a bad experience with it, or like seen something gross on TV or something. I don't know, but honestly, it's just awful. And that was another thing I forgot to mention. Every time I would see someone like throw up in a show or something when I was young, like if I would like be able to like see them throw up, oh my god, you guys, the anxiety I would get after that, fuck. Like if I watched that show in the evening, I would not sleep. I would stay up trembling, like trembling so much, thinking that I was going to throw up as well. Oh my god, like the level of anxiety that watching someone throw up caused me, it was absolutely awful. I think that's like linked to when I said about freaking out when I was young every time someone would throw up in front of me, or someone telling me that they felt sick, you know? And now when I see someone throwing up on TV, it really doesn't cause me that much anxiety anymore. Like, for a second I'll be like, oof, but it does not cause me like anxiety for the rest of the night, which I'm so grateful for. And I don't know why. Like, obviously I am still, you know, anti-vomiting, and I will do anything in my power to not vomit. And when I start to feel sick, I'm just like, no, over my dead body, I am not getting sick. And I also came to realise that the reason I hate throwing up so much, and the reason that I avoid throwing up so much, is because I think it's linked to a fear of loss of control. When I feel like I'm not in control of my body, I freak the fuck out. And I think that's another reason why I hate throwing up so much. I think it's not vomit that I'm scared of so much. Like, I came to realise, and I was talking to my therapist about this, that it's the fear of losing control, it's the fear of judgment from other people, and it's the fear of letting something beat you. And I am the kind of person, I hate letting anything beat me. Like, if I get a cold or the flu or anything like that, I just hate it so much. I just get frustrated and I just want to cry because I hate letting anything beat me. And that's the same with throwing up. I'm like, that is just gross though. Like, I don't want to have to resort to, you know, my stomach acid coming out of my mouth. That is just awful. That's disgusting. It's the fear of losing control and fear of judgment and just all of those things. As far as how my emetophobia was triggered is concerned, I honestly have no clue. I have no clue because, as I said, I have had it since I was like 3 or 4, honestly. I've always been terrified of vomit and done everything in my power to try and like avoid it and stuff, but I think I came to the conclusion that like it's just my fear of losing control and my fear of judgment and my fear of not like wanting it to beat me. So I feel like I've already kind of like briefly mentioned about like how I don't get anxiety so much anymore when I see sick. But basically for months at the start of this year, when I was struggling so bad with emetophobia, what I did was I basically just kept drilling these positive affirmations into my head, and I kept saying, look, Sick really is not that bad if you think about it. It's really not that bad, Rhiannon. Like, if it happens, it happens. There is nothing you can do about it, okay? And I would also say things like, if other people judge you, then that is not your fault. Like, that is solely them, and it just goes to show that they're a non-understanding person, and that's not your fault. It really does not matter if, you know, you get sick and if it beats you. It doesn't matter. Like, stop being so obsessed with control, Rhiannon. Stop being so obsessed with having control of your body. Just stop. Like, if you've got to be sick, you'll be sick. But then I started to think realistically, and I was like, you're so terrified. You are so terrified of getting sick. But think about it, Rhiannon, you only get sick when you get a bug, and you only get a bug like once every 4 years, if that. And so I started like rationalising, you know, and I started thinking about it reasonably. And another thing that really, really helped was this positive affirmation that says, what is going to happen is going to happen, whether you are afraid or not. And I was like, yes, that's so true, because, you know, like, your fear is not going to change anything. Your fear is just pointless. It's just there. Your fear is driving you mad. It's driving itself mad, but it's not going to change the world, and it's not going to prevent anything from happening. You being terrified is not going to, you know, stop anything bad from happening or stop what you're scared of happening from happening. And I think I really just started to learn that, and it takes a while, it really does, but eventually it just gets drilled into your head. And I think also you just have to give it time. Like, if something has caused your emetophobia and you are on the ceiling for months and something's triggered it and it's caused a lot of anxiety, you just have to kind of like wait for it to like die down a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot actually, because mine has died down so much. And as I said, I'm still vulnerable and I still hate vomiting, but it just does not cause me the anxiety. And I think that is what people need to remember. When you are a serious emetophobe, your emetophobia won't go away. It's just about how you take the anxiety off, because the anxiety is what causes a lot of the emetophobia, and it's what fuels the emetophobia. So if you don't have the anxiety, then the emetophobia is just kind of like gets bored and just leaves. I just want you guys to keep saying to yourselves that no matter if you're afraid or not, what will happen will happen. It will. Like, we don't have the power to change or control anything, so we've just got to let it happen. And vomiting very, very, very rarely kills you, very, very rarely, just in cases where like you're extremely ill. Vomiting really is not that bad, and please stop being scared of people judging you, because at the end of the day, that's their fault. That is not your fault. Like, if they think that's disgusting, then they need to get a grip, because vomiting is normal. If you are scared of losing control of your body and you're scared of letting vomit beat you, or you're scared of like getting ill beat you and like beat your strength, don't. Just let go of that control. Let go of that obsession of control and that obsession of not wanting anything to change in your body or to kind of like dictate what happens to you, if you know what I mean. It will just happen and you need to accept it. Vomiting is not materialised, and by that I just mean that it's not going to happen at any given moment, and it's not just going to happen out of the blue. Like, it's not just going to happen randomly. It's the last thing that your body will resort to if it needs to get something out. Just stop letting, you know, the inevitable, stop letting the inevitable control how you feel and control, you know, how scared you feel, because it's going to happen if it's going to happen, you know? I think at some point I will make a proper video giving as much advice as I possibly can for people with emetophobia and like how to manage emetophobia and stuff, but I just kind of like wanted to round off this video with a little bit of advice and how I kind of like overcame it and stuff. Honestly, just give it time and wait for the anxiety to kind of like forget about it, and for the anxiety to kind of like die down. Keep telling yourself these positive affirmations. Remember that, you know, vomiting is actually important sometimes because it's your body trying to get rid of something disgusting or like something bad inside of you so that you don't get further ill. Like, vomiting is a good thing. It's beneficial for us. It's actually a very good function that the human body has, you know? This is what I like to do. When I lie in bed and I start to feel anxious or I start to have a panic attack and I'm like, oh God, I feel nauseous, oh God. What I like to try and tell myself is, look, nothing in this world is dangerous, really. And nothing in this world is to be in fear of. We invent things that we're scared of. So like, obviously I know that, you know, some things in this world are just naturally dangerous, but it's just the way that you look at it. That's what I'm trying to say. Just try to look at vomiting as something that's just not bad. It's just not bad. It just really doesn't matter at all. and, you know, stop being so scared of it, stop letting it control you. And I know that it's easier said than done. I just want to try and, like, you know, penetrate these thoughts into your subconscious, because I've been there and I know how hard it is. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you know, obviously I do still have it, and it does still link into my panic attacks hugely, and I get terrified that I'm gonna throw up when I have a panic attack and that I'm going to embarrass myself and look like an idiot, but I had to kind of like force myself to learn to live with it and to manage it. I hope this video was, you know, comforting and reassuring for some of you, and I hope that some of my advice helped in any way, shape or form, and that it was interesting for you to find out just a little bit more about me and like an additional kind of mishap that I have. I'm so sorry that this video was so long. I'm so sorry. I really didn't want it to go on for this long, but if you did stick around till the end, then thank you so much. And please give it a thumbs up for me if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and tell me some of your experiences with emetophobia if you want to, because I know that it's such a debilitating phobia to live with. It's awful, I know. And I will definitely make a separate video at some point on strictly advice for emetophobes. So yeah, feel free to leave requests down in the comments for my mental health series and just video requests in general. So yeah, just remember, your fear will change nothing. Your fear cannot control the world or change the world. Just let it be. Just let it be, and try to look at it as a good thing. Try to look at vomiting as a good thing. And I know that seems so weird, but that's what I had to do, and it helped. Like, I just had to think to myself, it's really not that bad. Like, it's really not that bad. Who cares if they judge me? Who cares if, you know, I'm not in control of my body for a few seconds whilst I'm throwing up? Who cares, you know? Who actually cares? It's not going to kill me. It's not the end of the world. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope you have a lovely day, and I am always open and happy to help you with any issues that you may be having or any questions that you want to ask me. I will try my best to answer them and help you in any way I can. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you all soon. Bye.